Alright, let's see what this week has in store for us. Oh, okay. Alright, let's get this week started with South of Midnight, the latest creation from Compulsion Games, and it's earth-shattering all-time peak players on Steam of less than 1,411? Well, that's the point of writing at least. Well, just a reminder, this is a game published by Microsoft. You'd think that this game will have a higher all-time peak player than this, considering they also published Psychonauts 2 or in Blind Forest. Hell, Dust and Elysian Tale had a higher all-time peak. A one-man project that was released in 2013 was received better. This has got the sting. Top it all, Grumps posted a screenshot from 2024 where they are looking to remaster and remake stories for modern audiences. And in that tweet, asking as well, is this why Sweet Baby game South of Midnight isn't doing that well? Sticking with the usual pattern of the game that has the SBI touch of death, multiple commentators got blocked on Twitter by Compulsion Games, Dark, Smash JT, Grumps, Cabrutus, just to name a few. All of them were criticizing the game. You'd think that honest critique would be welcome, but not in that development studio by the looks of things. And lastly, with the CEO of Compulsion Games openly admitting on Twitter that she hates gamers and stating in an interview, white male gamers were a mistake. One of the writers prioritizing their own personal ideology instead of writing a good story, where said writer also believes a person's skin color determines if they can write a queer person of color. And to no one's surprise, this game got a 77 out of 100 on Metacritic, with yet again critics giving a 100 out of 100 score, while the Steam forums for the game also having posts logged for no apparent reason, aside from gamers obviously voicing their opinion on the game. This is going down the route of any other SBI game, and oh boy, that's no surprise. Now, on something good for a change. Schedule 1, a game that took Steam by storm when it was released in early access on the 24th of March this year. A $20 experience that engrosses you in with a compelling game mechanic. What more could you want? How about an investigation by someone who is most likely not happy with how fast your game grew? Movie Games Studio launched an investigation into Schedule 1 and alleged the game potentially infringing on Movie Games IP, with allegations such as using many copyright elements, game plot mechanics, and user interface from the game Drug Dealer Simulator. I'm no expert here, but looking at the games side by side, one looks gritty and realistic, the other looks like it was made for a Saturday morning cartoon section on cable television. Does Movie Games have copyright over making illegal substances? How smartphones look in a game? Tried looking for a plot for both Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and 2. Came up with nothing. Then again, Schedule 1 also doesn't have a story last time I checked. You just go into the city and tried making it big. This resulted in a review bombing of both Drug Dealer Simulator 1 and 2, follow it by a message from Movie Games trying to clarify that there is no ill will towards Tyler's Video Game Studio, the creator of Schedule 1, even claiming to have mailed them best wishes, followed by Byte Runners, the developer of the Drug Dealer Simulator games, mentioning how they didn't have any ill intentions towards Schedule 1, and this investigation was done by the publisher alone. I mean, shouldn't the developer be aware of what's happening here, considering for an investigation you need access to the assets of the game? One way or another, I wish Tyler the best with the game he's working on. Moving on to another situation that could only fit into the classification of a car crash in real time, the VA for Paimon, Colleen, strikes again. This time with a TikTok about how YouTubers shouldn't talk about the strike because they didn't know anything. Then later on, claimed that this was AI generated in a post on Blue Sky without any proof, obviously. At least later on, she confirmed she got the video mixed up with another one of Tectone reacting to an AI version of Paimon that roasted the VA. Now, to be fair, the VA for Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3 did come out and say that CEOs wanted to implement AI voicing in order to cut costs. That's not surprising considering most CEOs are only looking at the profits, and if pandering someone will get them said profits. Again, Most, not all. Some of them, Sven Binchski, I'm gonna butcher this for sure, for example, is looking to make good games. Just look at the Divinity series and how that got received. Coincidentally, this is the CEO of the studio that worked on Baldur's Gate 3. So there you go. During the week, Joe Zaja, the voice actor for Cloud in Fire Emblem, and Rithal Slade, I'm not even gonna bother correcting this, made a video about the SAG-AFTRA strike and its relation to Hoyo, which there isn't any. We also talked about the situation without presenting a lot of documentations. The only thing that he presented is California Assembly Bill 2602, which prevents digital replicants from being created without it being in the contract, and SAG-AFTRA strike on their official website. He tried to make it look like it's Hoyo's responsibility for not signing a union contract, even though signing said contract will make it hard for non-union VAs to work for Hoyo. He even mentioned that if the company went union a year ago, many VAs would qualify for healthcare, even though it was SAG-AFTRA. That's the problem. For some clarification about the healthcare, at the start of 2021, they raised the required earnings for healthcare to $26,000, and the seniors 65 or older requires some seasonal earning income. Not only that, but 11 Films also claims that most of the union members earn less than that, and SAG got sued for age discrimination because of this healthcare plan. At the start of the year, they also increased the requirement by 2% every year. Joe also said don't look into Taft, partly because it's confusing, at least he explained it. However, his Netflix analogy doesn't make sense because it's more of a free trial forced down your throat than forced to pay. Let's just forget that SAG called union workers a lesser quality and claiming union actors are better. Talk about blowing your own horn. Joe also goes into what happens with union and non-union members when they sign the agreement with a union. He claims that non-union members won't get replaced despite ending it with "it depends." He emphasized on the fact that Hoyo is not and never was part of SAG-AFTRA, then goes into explaining why Hoyo's VAs aren't reporting for Genshin, saying Genshin's VAs got together and took action to demand more from Hoyo. Just remember, SAG-AFTRA wants Hoyo to sign a union agreement, not the other way around. There's a part of the video called "The Problem with Social Media and Toxicity," where he goes on a rant, non-measurable social feelings, and mentions he's trying to give factual clarity as he can. He claims there are subjective social effects for reporting other actors were claiming Global Rule 1 and getting involved in online arguments which he can't define. He even claims that, and I quote, "anyone who says they have the facts on social repercussions during a time like this is certainly, definitely incorrect, because there is no such thing. Even though we have verifiable evidence, what can happen when things like this come up? Just look at the previous videos on the subject." At least he ended the video by telling people to think for themselves, which is why we dug into this in the first place. Also saying that the online toxic discourse needs to stop, but we all know who started it. And the final words for the video were, "We'll be kind to each other." That's something I can get behind. The CN community also reacted to this to no one's surprise, with comments like, "Oh, you gotta remember this. They need to pick VAs more carefully from now on, especially EN VAs. Is this video by the union detached themselves from those VAs?" And so on, roasting the VAs that started the chaos. Speaking of chaos, the man, the myth, the legend, Yoko Taro, says he was ordered not to worry about overseas views when making a game. In an interview with AV Watch, Shuhei Yoshida talked about Japanese games and how it was difficult for them to gain recognition in the global market, until Nier Automata changed everything. It revealed Japan's game industry and inspired Japanese creators to stop imitating the West. Yoshida noted that with the release of Nier Automata on PS4, and I quote, "I think Yoko Taro created it without paying any mind at all to make it sell overseas, but it was a tremendous success." With Nier, everyone realized this, that it wasn't just something they could do, but something they had to do. He even mentioned on Twitter that he got a message that was something like this: Yoko, you can't make games for overseas, so please try your best to make one for Japan at least. Would have thought that if you don't make a game that is constricted by censorship and focus on what will make it fun, it will sell well. Now, speaking of censorship, VGC made an article about the organization Women in Games and how it wants Valve to remove a game from Steam which promotes sexual assault and incest. They didn't want to name the game in the article, which could mean this whole thing could be bogus. However, they described the game and covered part of the description of it. That led people to find the game, No Mercy. Looking through the Steam page, it's properly tagged, and if you have your tag set to exclude certain types of tags, the game won't show. The article doesn't mention that. What a surprise, am I right? The CEO of Women in Games called Valve to act urgently and remove the game from Steam, citing it's not only vile and dangerous, but actively promotes the dehumanization of women and girls. Alright, let's take this logic and apply it to games like Silent Hill 2, the Street Fighter series. Second, considering these games depict violence against women, Silent Hill specifically because of the underlying tone of abusing women in it. Why weren't these games taken to task by Women in Games, I wonder? Oh wait, the moment they do that, the people behind these games will slap them into next week. The CEO also stated that the fact that a game like this is available on Steam is utterly unacceptable. It sends a clear and distressing message that violence against women is not only tolerable but playable. That message has no place in our industry, our communities, or our society. Sadly, Valve caved into a bunch of online Karens that have no clear interest in games and only do this to force their worldview on others. The game itself is not something I personally want to play or experience, but that still doesn't mean that I want it removed from Steam. I already have the not safe for work tag blacklisted, and when you upload a game to Steam, you have to make sure it's flagged properly if it's 18 plus or not. So I don't see the reason why Valve needed to bend the knee to a bunch of online Karens, but this sets a dangerous precedent that you can bully Valve into doing what people want. Now, on to some happier news for a change. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers reached number 17 in the most followed upcoming Steam games. The Wu Chang Twitter account also posted a message to their community. We have come a long way together. We are near the top of the Steam ranking, all thanks to our incredible community. Thank you for supporting us. Side note, the game also reached top 110 wish lists as well. Be sure the community can't wait for the game to be released, as the release date on Steam is set to 2025. Moving on to a head scratcher, the Hugo Award allowed Dragon Age: The Veilguard to be one of the 6 finalists for the 2025 award ceremony. Well, considering the article from Engadget called it BioWare at its best and embedded a link to their review, it's not surprising that they're blazing it hard, considering this was gaming media's favorite thing to defend for quite a while. At least they admitted that it's only critically acclaimed. Let's not talk about the audience and how it was received with them. With the Hugo Awards missing some of the popular games out there that actually deserve a nomination, and the fact that there was a statement from them about how a writer spent money to fake votes, I will not be surprised if something like this is happening again. Well, speaking of back again, we're back with Ubisoft. An article from The Insider where they mention Ubisoft stocks dropped to €8.80. Looking at the source, the price dropped even further down to €8.51. But hey, they're at least developing a turn-based tactics game set in the Rainbow Six universe. It allegedly is similar to updated XCOM with cinematic cutscenes. Yay! Films also mentioned that on the 9th of April, the stock price for everything went up except Ubisoft. I'm gonna see this again and again if need be. Investors are not happy with Ubisoft at the moment, hence why the stocks aren't gonna go up. This is not the end for Ubisoft's time slot, however, this week. The servers for the crew that were shut down in March 2044, and at the end of that year, 2 gamers took Ubisoft to court for false advertisement in California. Those 2 gamers also purchased physical copies of the crew under the belief that they were obtaining unfettered access to the game in perpetuity. They also take issue with the fact Ubisoft didn't create an offline single player option for the game. Considering the game has a single player campaign, that is mind boggling but not surprising, considering this is Ubisoft we're talking about. Ubisoft's lawyer mentioned that the consumers were explicitly notified at the time of purchase that they were purchasing a license, and also mentioned that the Xbox and PlayStation packaging contains a clear and conspicuous notice in all capital letters that Ubisoft may cancel access to one or more specific online features upon a 30-day prior notice. Ubisoft now filed a motion to dismiss the case and keeps reinforcing their own message that you should get comfortable not owning your game. Well, regardless, the Guillemot brothers need to get accustomed to not having a company at this rate, considering how the investors are not happy, not one bit. And speaking of happy, we have Marvel Rivals posting on Twitter showing off the new skin of Emma Frost, and coincidentally made it look like the copy from a leaker's profile. The reason why I say it coincidentally is because the tweet was made 1 minute after the leak post. Either the people running PR for Marvel Rivals are god tier, or this was planned all along. Or maybe the leaker that posted the original preview of the skin was the guy running the Marvel Rivals Twitter and accidentally posted it on their personal Twitter. You never know. Of course, Twitter will be Twitter and will complain that the skins in the game are just quote-unquote gooner bait. So, people are gooners because they want to play as hot characters. Some people need to take a hobby. Not to be left behind, Reddit is also going haywire over the skin. The OP in the post deleted their entire Reddit account. So, make of that what you will. The original poster is disappointed about the skin and claims it's so bad that it looks like a mod. They also went to say that Emma Frost uses her sexuality as weapons and armor, then later on mentioned how it doesn't fit her character, even calling the look gimmicky and ridiculous. Talk about not knowing the character then, am I right? The comments are also crazy. One claims that Marvel Rivals is training young boys to find unrealistic body standards most attractive, and claims women aren't going to be able to find good men whose minds aren't unified from prawn. Our commenter mentioned how they do agree with OP, but they wanted to point out that the skin is most likely inspired by the comics and even showed the outfit from the comics. Oh boy, we got the split personality coming in. Most comments also mentioned that the devs do like Marvel as a series and did their homework when it comes to skins, but OP refused to listen and played the sexism card, saying that it's not faithful and the skin is not designed by a woman, even calling it a lame excuse to appeal to men. PC gamers and journalists also says Marvel Rivals needs to go to horny jail, even calling the skin not safe for work. Bruh! I'm convinced that the person who made this article hasn't even seen a not safe for work post at this point. Or not safe for work anything really. And training young boys to find unrealistic body standards most attractive? I mean, I'm lazy. I don't work out, but I know that's a realistic body standard. I mean, all you have to do is just work out. Obviously, you have body mass, height, and a lot of other things to take into consideration where you'll be able to achieve that. Since, I mean, generally eating 20 burgers ain't gonna achieve that look for sure. But regardless, I can go off on a tangent all year long with this stupid post. But anyways, let's wrap this up here. You guys know the drill. Like if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, and I'll see you guys next time.